Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. And a big shout out to our good friends at Dice Legion. If you need any ttrpg accessories, dice bags, other ttrpg mugs, things like that, definitely check them out. They're awesome. Use the promo code Sinister. Their link is also in the description. With all that out of the way, let's jump into this week's video. We're talking about my favorite of the goblinoid races, the Hobgoblin. Hobgoblins, they are my favorite of the goblinoids. They are the leaders. They are the backbone. They are the ones that organize the bugbear and the goblins that keep the machine of war going. And when they're not doing this great goblinoid military force, who they are as a society when they're just taking care of their own is amazing to me. They are cruel and brutal to each other, but there's a certain level of beauty in how they invest in each other. Basically, the big thing about the goblins, the hobgoblins, is the personal perimeter. You're responsible for your area. You're very responsible for protecting how much you can protect. The stronger you are, the protection you can give is bigger. And so everyone in all of their groups work together for that. So if you build fortifications and that's all you do, you're like a carpenter or something. If you build strong enough fortifications or you are really masterful in your craft, you get glory, you get positions, you get respect, you get treated, and your voice carries more weight because of what you can do. And it's not about where you're born or if you're born in a rich house or if you're noble in the Hobgoblin Society. What matters is what tangibly you can do. And that means the most. It doesn't matter if you're well liked. It doesn't matter if you happen to have the personality of dirt. If you show up and you protect and you do what's necessary and you succeed and bring victory and glory, you're given what you deserve. You're given the positions you deserve. How much you can do and you can produce is actively rewarded. If you're born and you have like an innate ability with magic, they immediately pull you into the magic school and cultivate you and teach you everything that they can in order to give you the best chance of becoming the best magic user possible. And that's their driving force. You see the strengths in other hobgoblins and you prepare them to use those to the best of their ability. And like as cruel and as brutal as they are to each other, that's amazing to me. That's really it's really beautiful to me that no matter how hard-edged or how distant or how cold they can be to each other, seeing the value in someone and going out of their way to cultivate that, to grow that, it's just beautiful to me. I think that's amazing, especially as a society, especially in D&D. You don't see that a lot. There are very few species in the entire landscape that take that active of a role in their own personnel to just elevate them and as often as possible. It's a very cool thing that you don't see in any other species. They all kind of just let them, everyone just kind of goes up whatever avenue they were born into, and that's just kind of how things work. But in Hobgoblin Society, your strength and your dedication and your cunning and ability are all constantly being observed and constantly being reinforced and supported. They're brutal. They are brutal to each other. Surviving just being trained from when you can walk to be a soldier till you can actually do things as far as jobs and responsibilities is very hard, very difficult, and it is a lot of emotional, physical abuse that they endure. But they do give you the ability to always have a chance to succeed in their culture, and that is something that's just you don't see in any other species that I'm aware of, and it's beautiful to see that. And that's one of my favorite things about them, on top of the fact that they are always polite. They are not the ones to start a fight unless they have to, but once an insult is given to them, they have to respond. and they have to respond as brutally and as coldly as they've been trained their whole life. So as long as you're polite and respectful to a hobgoblin, you don't have an issue. The instant you say the wrong thing, it is over. And that pride, that strength, that unity that comes from their upbringing, I love that so much. They're just one of my favorite species. So hobgoblins have the average base stat. If you're using Volo's guide and you're sticking to the ability score thing, you have a +2 to constitution, +1 to intelligence. That's because they're tough, they are durable, and they are smart. They are tacticians, they are leaders, they're very analytical, they're very focused in on making the smart approach. They're not really charismatic in that way, but they are very, very on point with that kind of a mentality. They are medium sized, they do have dark vision, and your average walking speed is 30. Volo's Guide to Monsters produced a different hobgoblin that's more true to the lore that we know as its history, and Monsters in the Multiverse changed the hobgoblin a little bit to be more a fey creature. So we'll discuss a little bit about that. But I think the hobgoblins from Volo's Guide to Monsters really instills who the hobgoblin is the way we would normally see them and know them from playing D&D, where the Monsters in the Multiverse is kind of a newer aspect of them. Volo's Guide to Monsters gave you 2 abilities. Martial Training, you are proficient with 2 martial weapons of your choice and with light armor. Saving Face. Hobgoblins are careful not to show weakness in front of their allies, for fear of losing status. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or a saving throw, you can use a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, the maximum bonus of 5. Once you use this trait, you cannot use it again until you finish a short or long rest. They do have a different version of Saving Face, which we will discuss when we discuss Monsters of the Multiverse. But what I really love is that this version makes more sense to me. And we'll discuss this when we get into the Monsters of the Multiverse version of this ability. But this feels more of the traditional hobgoblin that I love. The martial training as itself is great, especially if you're building like a wizard, or if you want to do a blade singer. Like, this is something that gives you a couple of different options to use. And all in all, it helps you choose a couple of different variety of things. It can make you a little bit more customizable. But the hobgoblin for Volos is kind of built to either be like an eldritch knight or a wizard of some sort. And that tracks really based on how they would be given their ability scores, because that intelligence is going to be useful to you. But the main thing is that constitution, because you're meant to be leading and being on the battlefield. Fey Ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed condition on yourself. This again has to do with their new lore change that they're being pulled from the Fey, and that's how they came to the real world. The reason why they have this is because the actual hobgoblin from lore and mythology is a Fey creature. It's just someone who would break into your house and fix your shoes or something along those weird lines. How they got from that to this is quite the leap, but it is kind of where they come from in our history. Fey Gift. You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action, and you can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Starting at 3rd level, choose one of the options each time you take the help action with this trait. Hospitality. You and the creature you help gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus. Passage. You and the creature you help each increase your walking speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Spite. Until the start of your next turn, the first time the creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, the target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within the next minute. This is really kind of interesting. The way it's meant to be used is pretty frivolously. You're supposed to kind of just throw it out there pretty regularly, actually. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many different circumstances you really use it. Hospitality can be used a lot, especially earlier on, where 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus is a huge portion of HP. Again, it's temporary HP, but that still helps out a lot, especially early level, or just damage mitigation at higher levels, which a lot of people tend to disregard if the number isn't big enough. But 1d6 plus 5 is at worst 6, at most 11, and you just take that right off of whatever damage you'd hit. Makes a big difference. But passage, very circumstantial at best. I doubt the circumstantial you need an extra 10 feet when you can dash. But Spite I really like. Spite is a great way to instill disadvantage and to help give your friend advantage. It's a very great way to do that. I can see that as a tactical thing. I can see maybe a hobgoblin helping a rogue get advantage, so that way he'd be able to make that sneak attack, and then if that attack lands, give that a target disadvantage if it survives, being a very tactical, very smart thing to do, especially because it limits the opponent's ability to hurt anybody around them, who would be your allies. I think it's a stronger version. It's a better ability than not having it. I think it's usable. You get it pretty regularly. When you're rocking out 2 or 3 as your proficiency bonus, that's at least 2 or 3 times a day you can use that. It's a good bonus for a species racial ability. Fortune of the Many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or saving throw, you can draw on the bonds of your reciprocity to gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, a maximum bonus of +3. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. I personally like Saving Face better. I think it's just a better mentality for the Hobgoblin. I like the idea that it's just you persevering because you just refuse to fail in front of your comrades. That really rings home to me. The way this works, it's kind of supposed to be in the mentality of you've used your Fey gift and now you're receiving that as kind of like karma, the Fortune of the Many. And it doesn't feel as true to the way I see the Hobgoblin, or the way I prefer to see the Hobgoblin. And that's kind of where my issue is. The +3 as opposed to a +5 really balances out because you get to use it more often during a day, where you can use it upwards of 4 or 5 times a day. Where if you use the Saving Face, you can only do it per short or long rest, which could end up being just twice a day. But I really think Saving Face is just a better overall ability. Our final thoughts. The Hobgoblin is an amazing species. I love it so much. I think they're amazing. I love the complexity and all the different facets of who they are as a people. I love that they're so invested in themselves and their people, and they're so rigid and commanding and cruel and evil and vile to each other, and yet they need and want each other to succeed. Like, I love that duality of mentalities, and that cruel way to force strength and success and diamonds out of coal. Like, I really enjoy that, and I think that they have a great lore, even going to their gods all the way down. I think they're one of the more well done and developed species in all of D&D. I think they're just fantastic. The perfect Hobgoblin in my mind is really the Monsters of the Multiverse version, but with Saving Face from Volo's Guide. You put those two together and you flavor text Fey Gift to something like Hobgoblin Command, and you can really, that's where the real commander on the battlefield kind of comes out, where you're using your action constantly to help, and that's a great opportunity to show leadership and command on the field, and not just have a direct opportunity just to say things you can actually use in combat role playing as a way to enforce who your character is. And that's a great, exciting way to do things that are just uniquely charming to how the lore is for the Hobgoblin. And it fits. Their words carry weight. They are the backbones. They handle the logistics. They get the bugbears and the goblins from point A to point B. Their success rides on the Hobgoblin leadership. So they make great leaders. And it's amazing to me that they're not charisma bonus, but you know, they do have the intelligence and the tacticians necessary to do things. But they're I could go forever talking about how great they are and the different things that they can do and how unique they are even to goblins and bugbears with how they treat each other and how they look at the other goblinoids. But that's definitely for another video that we're thinking about. Bringing this video to a close, just want to mention we're going to be looking at doing a lore video soon, and goblins is probably going to be the first thing, and maybe I'm kind of fighting myself to do this to really make it just basically hobgoblin oriented, but we'll see how that breaks down. If you've made it this far, big thank you. Really appreciate it. Definitely give us a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed what you saw. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. And speaking of links in the description, our good friends Dice Legions, their link is in the description as well. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all of your purchases. With that out of the way, I just want to say thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.